So in order to understand organisms with no circulatory system, we must first understand what is a circulatory system. So a circulatory system is essentially a system or a method in which we allow for the transportation of gases and nutrients through an organism's body. Now, in humans and invertebrates, this may be more obvious as we have blood. So our blood allows for the transportation of our gases and nutrients. But when we talk about organisms that don't have blood or don't have a circulatory system at all of the sorts, how do they transport their gases and nutrients? So, first of all, we must first understand that when an organism has no circulatory system, it must be a simple organism, because as you become more complex as an organism, you will require a complex closed circulatory system. But for no circulatory system, you have to be a relatively simple organism that is capable of performing simple diffusion. But what is simple diffusion? So to recap, simple diffusion is the passive diffusion of solutes from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration. So here, as an example, we have a cell membrane. Now, on this side of the cell membrane, we have a high concentration of solute, but on this side, we have a low concentration of solute. So through passive diffusion, the side which has the high concentration of solutes will move solutes to the low concentration side to balance out the two concentrations. So in organisms that have no circulatory system, they are relatively simple organisms that can perform simple diffusion, and that is how they transport their gases and their nutrients. So how would an organism with no circulatory system gain oxygen? Well, oxygen would simply pass through simple diffusion through the body of that organism. And how would it remove carbon dioxide? Well, it would just simply diffuse it through the opposite direction, outward of the body. And it's the same for the nutrients. So the nutrients can also diffuse through, and the waste can also diffuse through. Now, next, it's important to understand which organisms exhibit these characteristic of having no circulatory system. And if we recall, within biology, we actually have 6 different kingdoms. We've got these 4 kingdoms over here, and then we've also got kingdom Animalia and kingdom Plantae. But there are only 4 kingdoms that exhibit no circulatory system. That is kingdom Protista. Now let's recall what kingdom Protista is. Kingdom Protista is where we will find our single-celled organisms. So single-celled organisms are simple organisms. They've only got a single cell, so they can, of course, perform simple diffusion. So that is why they have no circulatory system. Kingdom Fungi. So fungi also don't have a circulatory system because they can simply absorb nutrients from the outside and expel of waste. And then we have kingdom Eubacteria. Now, bacteria are simple organisms, and they are also capable of simple diffusion. And the same goes for kingdom Archaea. They are simple organisms. Kingdom Animalia and kingdom Plantae, however, are complex organisms, and they cannot survive with no circulatory system. Now, let's take a closer look at certain organisms within kingdom Animalia that do exhibit no circulatory system. And we've got these 5 over here. So these 5 are found in kingdom Animalia, and these are the only 5 in kingdom Animalia that will exhibit no circulatory system. And that is your porifera. So remember that the porifera are essentially your sea sponges. Now, sea sponges, they can perform simple diffusion. They are simple organisms. Then you have your cnidaria, which are your jellyfish, also simple organisms that can perform simple diffusion. You've got your platyaminthes, which are your flatworms, your nematoda, which are your roundworms, and your rotifera, which are your rotifers. Now, all of these are simple organisms which can exhibit no circulatory system. So what are the key traits that are common within organisms with no circulatory system and these organisms listed over here? Well, as I've said, they are relatively small, so they are simple organisms, and they have the ability to perform simple diffusion to absorb nutrients through their body, and they live in solutions or areas which have all the nutrients or sustenance that they need to survive. And that is essentially organisms with no circulatory system.